Self-care and self-work is different.
Yeah.
Self-care, yeah, you're going to get your nails done, you're going to get your hair done, you're going to get massages. That's self-care. But self-work
Mm.
is really work. It causes you to look in that mirror. When I'm putting my makeup on in the morning, I'm just not looking in the mirror putting makeup on. Who do I see
Whew.
in the mirror? Standing there and looking and say, do I like this person? What do I have to change? Right? And actually taking the steps to do that and realizing that on my journey to do self work, it's not going to always be pretty.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to face some ugly truths about myself,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a part of the process, right?
It's been said that you may not be responsible for your trauma, but you have the responsibility to heal from your trauma. Let's talk about it. I'm Ashley White, the host of Joy on the Journey podcast, a weekly podcast all about defining, finding, and maintaining joy on the journey of life. Each week, I am honored that I have the privilege of hearing women's stories in their own voice. And today is no different. Y'all, this one may get a little deep, okay? So trigger one and grab some tissue, okay? Today's guest is Cosha Joseph. She is a licensed counselor who has worked with people from all different parts of life, guiding them through challenges and transitions through her coaching and personal life coaching. Over the years, she's developed a unique set of skills that combines empathy and encouragement and practical strategies. She believes that each of us has the power to overcome obstacles, discover our purpose, and live a fulfilling life. She also believes that healing is a priority that everyone has the privilege to experience through her soul, the experience programming. Kosha, thank you so
Yay.
much
Thank you.
for joining the
Thank
podcast.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So am I. So am I. So, as I mentioned, the podcast is all about joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the first segment, I'm always curious as a therapist, how do you define joy? How does it show up for you?
Joy for me is an extension of happiness.
Mm.
Sometimes people can say they feel happy. Um, but when you have joy, it's different. And a lot of times it's something that you can't explain. And so when it gets to that point to where you have this feeling that you just can't explain it, for me, that's been joy.
Mm-hmm.
Like just happiness on steroids.
Ooh.
Like I'm just not happy today. I'm just joyful, grateful, thinking about all of those different things. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have a practice where you are intentional about the joy in your life?
It's from the moment I wake up.
Mm.
It's about being intentional about how I want my day to be, how I want to feel, even though that can change by things, circumstances, but putting in that mind to tell myself that I want to have a happy and joyful day, right? That kind of sets the tone for my day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people say when I get out the bed and you place your feet, it's all about what that is. So before I roll out, I'm like, I'm first, thanking God for the day and just being able to wake up again, and praying for that, because a lot of times, people struggle lives,
Mm-hmm.
and we run into a lot of different challenges. So I want to be intentional about being happy,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever that looks like for me.
Yeah.
It could be something people are like, oh, that's what you did. That's what makes you happy. Yes, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
It can be smallest thing as just going to get some ice cream, sitting in the park, in my truck, That may be something that brings me joy in the moment, because the hustle and bustle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So being intentional about what I want to see
Mm-hmm.
in the mornings is important.
Yeah. What I hear in that is constantly seeking or curating peaceful experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to do that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when sometimes you feel you come from a lot of chaos.
Mm.
You get to a point in your life to where that's what you want, peace. And if it's nothing surrounding that, you don't want to be attached or a part.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can come off different. People may feel like you're running from situations. Um, you don't want to confront certain situations, but for me, it's all about choices and what I choose to do. And when it comes to negativity and things that I feel don't bring me happiness and joy, I choose not to engage.
Ooh.
You know, because it's easy to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's easy to be triggered, and be taken out of character and just act in specific ways. But, they always used to say, it takes, you know, more muscles to frown than smile. So when you look at things like that, it's just like you have to come to a point in your life, though. You have to be there in order to truly understand. A lot of people weren't there. So for me, being a person who's went through a lot of different things, traumas, I'm at a peaceful point in my life to where that's all I want, and I can't be around nothing else,
Yeah.
So um, that's for me a different thing, and it's looked at different, but I'm okay with that. People may say, "Oh, you're so passive," you're just you don't like confrontation, sometimes it's necessary. I choose my battles though, right? And I feel like I can't stress about things that I can't change or control, right? So why allow it to affect me in that type of manner? So I always try to find the peace, the happiness, or the good things in even the negative things. So it's just different.
Oh, that's so good. And I hope for what I heard from that also was despite or wherever you may come from, right? No matter what your past may be, you still get a chance to make a different decision
Yeah,
on what your future state or even your present state is. That past hurt, trauma, difficulties don't define how you show up.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And we're going to get deeper into that in a moment. But I got to ask, have you subscribed to the channel? Have you shared the podcast? Are you leaned in close to where we're about to go? Yes? All right. So let's talk about your passion, helping women heal. When did you identify that this was God's assignment and work for your life?
Very early on.
Really?
I come from a family of mental health struggles, so I've always felt that I was the helper. I was always that one that people went to. So in that moment, like in the start of my career, I started off working for CPS,
Okay.
right? And I'm finding myself, and I'm just like, man, God, are you sure this is what I'm supposed to do? It's like, oh. And so I chose to say, okay, hey, I'm going to see this through. So outside of getting credentials, getting degrees, it still was a passion of mine to help people and feel as if I was in like a healing aspect of that, right? Friendships, just being able to come to me about different things. So it was early on that I knew that I had a calling about it. The therapy part of it was my career choice. But I feel like outside of that, I have a lot of things to bring to people. I feel like there's a need for me in people's lives. People always tell me, you have this calming spirit and this calming voice. And I'm just like, really? But I want to see people do well. And when you come from what I've come from and you see, I pay attention a lot,
Okay.
seen a lot. So I like to stand in the gap for people, and be that person to offer them something that they may didn't have.
Oh, that's so important. And also a sensitive place
Mm-hmm.
when you are standing in the gap for other people who may lack strength, even wisdom on how to move forward on their own. That's a weighty position.
Yes.
And so I wanted to get to that later, but I do want to talk about it now. As a therapist, and mental health is so important. How do you care for yourself when you are helping so many people work through traumas?
I've had to learn to do that because without realizing it, I don't. I haven't been in a situation where I put myself first. right? It was always being for and to other people. That's where I felt like my ministry was. Like, it didn't matter how I felt, what I was dealing with, what I was going through. I had to be that strong person for everybody else. So initially, I didn't know how. I didn't know what that looked like until it started to become so weighted into me understanding the feeling as if I can't show up and be what I need to be for everyone else if I'm not whole, if I'm not good.
Yeah.
And also realizing that there are things outside of me being a therapist that I need and that I need to work on. I want to be better for me so I can be better for those that are closer to me. So, in that sense, it causes me to do some self work,
Okay.
right? And feeling, I remember I tell people all the time, like, I'm a therapist with a therapist because at the end of the day, me doing therapy is my joy. I love doing it. It's my profession, but I'm human.
Yeah.
So I experience and go through everything everyone else does. And it's so easy for me to tell other people what to do and how to handle stuff. And then when it comes to my own life, I'm like, Kosha, you know better. Like, you're supposed to, and it just does not work.
Yeah.
But I went to a therapist and she asked me a question one day that really resonated with me. And she said, who is Kosha? Outside of you being a mom, a wife, a therapist, a sister, a friend, who are you? I could not answer.
Whew.
I had no answer for that at all. I'm sorry, I'm kidding. Because I had been so much to everyone else for so long. And I feel bad that I didn't know. I feel like I didn't know who I was. And it wasn't intentional, right? It wasn't something. It was just what I was doing, what I knew. It was never about me. It never was. And so when she asked me that question, I was like, wow. I feel so crazy that I can't even answer, like say something good, about myself. Even being in situations, relationships, and friendships to where you've been talked down on so much and you believe it.
Yeah.
So you don't think those good things of yourself. So I had nothing good to say. So when I left that therapy session, I told myself, I said, you know what? I have to go on a journey to find me. It was important. So I started to be very selfish. Being okay with being selfish and saying that I have to put myself first. I need to know who I am.
Yeah.
And so during the time I was sick, so I was in the house a lot. I feel like that was a moment where God was sitting me down. I struggled with my faith after my dad died. And so when I got sick, I didn't know why I was sick. Doctors couldn't figure it out, and it lasted months. And so I told my friend one day, I said, you know what I just realized? God is trying to tell me that I can trust him. I wasn't there. He brought me down to my knees, literally, So in that time, I'm sorry, I'm crying so much. This is what I encourage people and tell people all the time. This is a part of my journey. This is a part of my healing, right? And that's why it's so important for me to help other women with that, because we have stuff that's in here.
Yeah.
And we go on with everyday life like suppressing. And when we suppress and suppress and suppress and suppress, this is how it comes out. But I want women to know that it's okay, that it does. It's needed. People run from this because it's like, it makes them feel less than. It makes them feel soft, right?
Vulnerability.
And it's like, no, like these are moments that I want you to embrace. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a part of your journey. If you don't embrace it, you're not healing. And one thing they talked about in my conference was like, healing, you're always going to have that ing on the end.
Okay.
Because it is a process. Sometimes you're continuously healing from things. It doesn't happen overnight, right? So it's always something to think of, what do I do? So in my journey to find me, I had to do some self work. I did a lot of journaling. Um, I did some meditation. I would spend hours outside in nature, just getting back to me what made me happy because I needed to figure out who I was outside of all of those titles. And so I had lost myself so much to where I started to see, like, okay, wow, you're an amazing person. You're a woman of God. You're a healer. These are the things that you are. And so as I started to do that, I started to feel better about myself, right? I started to feel better about certain choices that I made, certain things that I would do. Um, and understanding that even in that moment when I was I felt like in a broken space, um, it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
It was very much needed for me. So I'm very, very intentional now. I don't allow anything, if I can help it, to disturb my peace.
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that I show up for myself. I am heavy on self care. I was not in the beginning. I'm very heavy on that now. I was like, oh, it's self care. I'm all about it because I need that time for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got people I have to show up for. And I know that I do because that's what God has for me. So I have to take care of my temple. I have to take care of myself. All the way down to what I'm doing, what I'm putting in my body, like what I'm feeding in my spirit, things like that. It's really important for me to do. So I would say on that journey, just involving myself in heavy, heavy, heavy self care and self work.
Mm-hmm.
Self care and self work is different.
Yeah.
Self care, yeah, you're going to get your nails done. You're going to get your hair done. You're going to get massages. That's self care. But self work
Mm.
is really work. It causes you to look in that mirror. And when I'm putting my makeup on in the morning, I'm just not looking in the mirror putting makeup on. Who do I see
Ooh.
in the mirror? Standing there and looking and say, do I like this person? What do I have to change? Right? And actually taking the steps to do that and realizing that on my journey to do self work, it's not going to always be pretty.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to face some ugly truths about myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a part of the process, right? Because sometimes when people say you're this or you're that, a lot of people will get offended.
Mm-hmm.
You sometimes have to say, you know what? This may be accurate. And what can I do to change it? Some people sit in their ways. Yeah. They don't want to change.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that will to be able to do that. So that self-work is really hard. That self-work will scare you. It'll make you say, I don't want to do that.
I'm good. I'm good.
Because, you have to hear some hard truths about yourself. And not only that, just saying it, but that and cohesiveness is very important for me.
One, thank you.
You're welcome.
I am grateful.
Yeah.
For you sharing and shining a light on what so many women face.
Yeah.
Where we absorb the title of mother, we absorb the title of wife, and we take care of those people.
Yeah.
And we forget
about us.
And so you are speaking to the reality of so many women.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for one, the courage.
Yeah.
Right? To tell your truth. And for encouraging other women, whether you have children or not, whether you're married or not, to not lose who God created you to be.
Right.
And one of the things you said that just really spoke to me is looking in the mirror. And before we begin to apply makeup, and it's a gift, thank God for the people that created it, right?
Oh, yeah.
But making sure that I'm also comfortable and in love with the person I see.
Yeah. It's the inside that we forget.
The inside. Yeah. And thank you for breaking down self-care and self-work. Because they are completely different things.
Totally different. Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially in this social media age,
yeah,
we see the focus on self-care. Yeah, take care of yourself, girl. Take care. And that's important. You want to look good, feel good. But if internally there's something broken,
It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there.
Yeah. And so thank you for challenging all of us to do the hard work. And what one of the things I am so mindful of is I am worthy of the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so thank you for not only doing your self work,
Yeah.
but helping other women reach that same place of awareness and love for themselves.
Yeah.
So that we can all pour out of full cups. I want to ask for that person or for that woman who's watching, right? And they're like, I've been through some stuff, but I'm all right. I'm fine. I don't need to talk to no therapist. I'm not telling them people my business.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that woman?
Stand in it now. Because some women may feel like they're not at that point. And they won't realize they're at that point until all of those things that they have been through start to weigh heavy on them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't look at the symptoms. We don't look at patterns. We don't look at all of those things that we may not think that is attributed to trauma is. It could be the way you handle a situation. It could be your mindset, your thought process, the way you think. All of that is derived from something, right? So for those women who don't feel that they're there in that moment, I've talked to women who have said that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my response would be, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's still okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at that point when you feel like you are ready, because I feel like they're not there, you have to be there.
Mm.
You have to not have that sense of denial. Some people are okay. It's how they're built up. Things may not affect them how they may affect someone else. I was talking to a friend, and I was telling her, she was telling me how about me speaking and doing these great things for women. And I said, I heard God tell me, like, in that moment, he was like, everybody's not going to be receptive of what you have to say. Everybody may not be ready, right? So in that instance where a woman is not ready, it's still okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's still okay. And when you are to that point to where you feel like you want to do something, that's okay. You move when you feel like you're led to. Everybody's not there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I still encourage. People may feel like their trauma is not as big as someone else's, right? And it may not be, but it still affects us
Mm-hmm.
in some type of way.
Yeah.
And we just don't realize that I do therapy and I talk and have clients, and a lot of things derive from childhood. It's not our fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's how we grew up. It's not our mom's fault that she doesn't know how to show us love, or she never told us that she loves us. She didn't get it, so she can't give it, right? And so a lot of times they put blame where it shouldn't be,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's looking at the entire core. So for any woman who feel that they're not there yet, or they don't feel like anything that they've been through is to the forefront of the core enough for them to address it, it's okay.
I was taking notes on something I wanted to ask. How important is forgiveness in a healing journey?
It's very important because you got to forgive yourself first.
Mm.
Then you have to forgive the person that you feel have done something to you. If you're not in a forgiving stage, you're always going to harbor other feelings that's going to give you pushback in that journey.
Okay.
Some people aren't ready to forgive because they're angry.
Yeah.
They have questions, the why. They are holding it against someone, right? And so when we don't get past that stage of forgiving, we can't heal. We can't heal if we don't forgive. Whatever caused a person to do something to us, and it's not just necessarily trauma coming from a person, it can be situations, right? But understanding, because the first thing that we do is place blame. We have to find fault in something, the reason why it happened. And sometimes we ask ourselves the question, why me? Why did I have to deal with this or go through it? So in that instance, like it's hard sometimes, depending on the nature
Yeah.
of that. It takes people sometimes years to get to the point to where they're ready to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for you to move forward in your journey, forgiveness is very important. You gotta let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta let it go. And when you tell people they gotta let it go, they're like, I don't want to let it go. Like, it's like, I get it. Like, you may not want to, but we're speaking about what's necessary
Mm-hmm.
for your process,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you got to break it down sometimes. You got to really, really break it down for them to see it. You got to allow things to just kind of stay in the past and move on forward, because it affects you in your adult life.
Yeah. Yeah.
In multiple ways.
Yeah, everything. It never, unhealed just becomes a pattern that you're going to pass down to the
Absolutely.
next generation.
And you don't want that. But when you start seeing it in yourself, the people around you, when you start seeing it in your children, then most people want to do something at that point, because it's affecting your children now. I don't want my kids to be like me. I don't want them to handle things like me. I want them to be better. But what have we shown them?
Mm-hmm.
They're like sponges when they're growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only being acclimated to what they see. So that's why it's important for us to teach children about forgiveness. Even when we in our heart don't really believe it, right? It's about teaching them a better way, of that, and not holding those things on. I've seen some very hard situations where people have struggled with that. But it's definitely necessary on any healing journey.
Thank you so much for sharing. One of the things that I want to go back to, you said you're a therapist with a therapist.
Absolutely.
How did you get to a place of trusting someone else with your innermost thoughts?
I looked at it as if I want people to trust me.
Okay.
With theirs. And again, it goes back to me being human, right? Therapy is my profession. It's my job. It's my passion. But I have things that I have to break down. I have things that I have to work through on my own, right? So when you're trying to find a therapist, of course, it's just like anything else. Finding a person that you feel you can talk to, that you are comfortable with. I get so much stuff thrown at me to where I have to debrief and I have to really decompress some things, right? And just being safe in a safe space. Some people can do that. They find that solace in their spouses, sometimes their children, where they feel like, okay, hey, I can really come to you and decompress and talk about some stuff, right? Some people don't want to do it with family. And that's okay, because regardless of what it is, your family is family, and there still may be some things that you don't want to talk about or discuss. So me even saying I want one or I need one was just me going through life and saying, hey, I need what I'm given. And saying, okay, I'm going to take the step to be able to do that, because again, I'm on a journey to being a better self so I can be a better person for everybody else. And that's a part of it. It's okay to do that, right? So I was okay with it, in the beginning. Like, I can't say that initially I felt as if, oh, I'm a therapist, I'm too good, I don't, no. And sometimes people do that. You have this therapist title.
Okay.
Sometimes you're in situations and people are like, well, you a therapist, you supposed to, and I'm like, I'm human first. Allow me to be human first.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not in therapy mode right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my mode right now. So a lot of times people feel like just because you're exempt from things, and that's not the case. It's so not the case. If I would say you have a lot more to bear than you would, because you're not dealing with your own stuff. When I first started therapy, I told myself I didn't want to do it full time. I wanted to do it part-time, because when you sit down and you take on a lot of people's stuff, imagine what that looks like when you leave and you go home. You can't sit in the car 15 minutes and shake it off. Sometimes it lingers. So I had to say, okay, hey, I'm only going to take maybe like 4 clients a day. Kind of gives me a time to show up in my house how I need to and not coming home with a lot of things. Um, so even that's important too, in that aspect, especially when you're just talking to people in general. I have a friend one time, she called me one day and I told her this. I said, listen, she said, when she called me on the phone, she's like, hey, do you have time to talk about something heavy? I can't tell you how much I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't ask. They don't care.
Oh, that's so
They
good.
just call and they dump. They dump because they feel they can. It's not about how you're doing or do you have something going on in the day. So when she said that to me, she's telling me that it's heavy. She's wanting me to be in a space to where I can really be there fully for her in that moment. I could have been doing something, here and there, and I'm not really listening. And I was out. And I'm like, you know what? Even though I'm sitting still, I'm like, sure. But she prepped me.
Yeah.
She prepped me and she didn't just dump on me. So I was able to give her my full attention in knowing that my friend needed to talk about something really heavy. And she cared enough about me in the moment to make sure that I was mentally able to handle that. And so sometimes we got to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
We got to do that. We have to be cautious and careful of the people we're dumping on because they may not have the mental capacity. They may be going through stuff you don't know about. They may have had a bad day. You don't know. You just calling and you just like, oh my God, this. Hold on. So I appreciated her so much for asking. And I do that more so now. And I talk to people and I tell people a lot of times, be intentional about that. Give people a heads up. It's just important because you want them to be present for you.
Sis, thank you. That has, because I think the question, hey, you had time to talk?
Yeah.
Hey, you busy? And then, but we don't really wait for the
We
answer.
don't ask the question to really get the answer. Yeah. It's just a general thing that we're supposed to do.
Hey, you busy? But
yeah.
Thank you, and thanks to your friend.
Yeah.
For also opening herself up for your no.
Exactly. Because it could have been a no.
Yeah. But she gave the space and the respect. No matter what your answer is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She prepared me. And I tell her that all the time. I was like, oh my God, girl, like you just do not know. I so appreciated that.
Yeah. My grandfather always said to have a friend, you have to be a friend.
Yeah.
And how you show up for others, more than often people will show up for you. Your village will show up for you. And so that has changed me.
Yeah.
Now when I call somebody, when I genuinely say, hey, you got a moment? I'm going to wait to really hear. And I think this reminds me of, I have one of my best friends. She lives up the street. Jessica. She's the godmother of 2 of my babies. And I can call her.
Yeah.
Hey, what you doing? And I'm going to keep talking. I hear the kids in the background.
That's not going to stop.
I hear her cooking dinner.
Yeah.
I hear her helping with homework. But I have not paused to consider her life
in that moment. Yeah.
And the situation I have placed her in to now stretch her time, trying to be a great friend, be a great mom,
stretch her mind, stretch her heart. You're stretching everything.
Yeah.
And people fail to realize that you can catch people at different moments and you get different responses. If she was settled, right, she may have been able to hear you a little bit more, a little louder versus things are going on in the background, noises, and she's kind of listening but kind of not. So you've kind of, in a sense, shorted yourself of the full
The fullness.
experience of what
Yeah.
you may have needed in that
Yeah.
moment. And sometimes people are like, "Oh, I called her. She was so busy. She wasn't even paying attention." And they think about it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But we set ourselves up for that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is based off how we're wired, right? Some people will call you and say, "Hey, what you doing?" And you can tell them you're doing something, they're gonna still talk, right? So it's still about the consideration of it. You gotta think about considering other people. Some people have friends that they feel like, okay, I have this friend that she just always got something going on. She's just always talking about this. And sometimes you may be like, oh my God, can you ever talk about something positive? So it's really about how you navigate through that, right? But it's still all a part of it, and understanding that everybody deals with life. Nobody is exempt from life, right? And so we have to think about that. And sometimes, I know for me, sometimes I will not answer my phone intentionally. It's still gonna ring. Because the way my people are wired and set up, if I don't answer my phone 1 or 2 times, they gonna keep calling. Now they think there's something wrong. Now they're about to call my son. Now they're about to call my husband, and I still gotta call them like, what? So it's like that's a part too of setting boundaries. One thing my husband and I were talking about, and I was like, I knew what I needed. I'm working, gotta shut down. I said, okay, after 6 o'clock, no more work. Putting my phone on do not disturb at a certain time so I can be more present for my family at home. Setting the boundaries and telling the people that constantly step over those boundaries, this is what I need from you.
Yeah.
Between this time, I'm unavailable, right? If you can't reach me, allow me to call you back. And forcing myself still not to answer if the call still comes through. Now that's hard, especially when you're used to doing it.
Y'all, if she done spoke to you, raise your hand, okay? I got some apology calls I need to make when we finish with this. So thank you again.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, though, we got to talk about Her Soul, the experience.
Yes.
It's coming up in November.
Coming up again in November. We just did our Her Soul, the Experience conference, April 20th of this year. Amazing. And I purposely wasn't trying to call it a conference. It definitely was an experience. Women who were ready to start, rebuild, or finish their healing journey were able to be in the room with like-minded women who was going through stuff. We did an activity. My host did an activity in there when we did our icebreaker. You had to find another woman that had the same size shoe that you wore. Walk a mile in my shoes and tell your story, right? But Her Soul, the experience is kind of like a spinoff from my journal. I created a journal called Her Soul Healing Journal, and then I did Her Soul Healing affirmation cards, and it specifically was to help people throughout their healing journey. People who need to heal from traumas, people who need to hear or be real with themselves and certain things. And we have generalized affirmations, but affirmations that speak to our healing, that speak to our soul and letting us know that, okay, we are worthy. This does not define us. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a conference. And I was like, oh Lord. I got scared when I had the idea. And when I got scared, I knew it was going to be something amazing. Because I normally don't have that fear. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what you're doing. But for me, when I feel like God is giving me a vision, I feel like I got to be obedient and see it through. Regardless of what it looks like. And the devil tried to play with my mind so much to where I want to cancel. Like, it just was a lot. And I really just stayed firm on what I felt my assignment was. Whether 60, 80, 100, or 2 women showed up, I was still able to give something to someone. And most of my speakers was like, why didn't you speak? I would have thought that you spoke. I had to get something. I sat in that audience with the people that were there because I needed something from that too. So I had to get that. So no, I didn't speak. I had some healing to do. Um, and I wanted to reset my journey. That was a start for me. So being able to have those amazing women in the room that were so courageous to be there and not think twice about this is what I need, and to hear from women who have went through traumas, that have been through all kind of things, finding accountability partners within each other to say, hey, I'm on the same journey as you, let's hold each other accountable. It was amazing. Like, God showed up and showed out in that room. It didn't even really go how the program was supposed to go. My speaker told me, she was like, I feel a shift. Are you okay? I said, say no more. Whatever God needs to do in this room in this moment, we're gonna allow him to do it. We're not looking at what we have lined up. Some women needed to be set free. And I got so full. I was so full, and the only thing I can say was, this is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. To see the women at the altar, to see the woman bearing their all and just letting go and saying, this is what I need to move forward in my life, was joy for me. Like, I got joy out of it. Like, I felt it, to be able to see that. And I said, you know what? I got so many great reviews, and people's like, we gotta do this again. We gotta do this. Because people was like, well, what is your purpose for this? You're gonna have your business conferences, your empowerment conferences, fine and dandy. This, I wanted to be different. I saw women struggling every day. Every day. I had people around me that I knew for 27 years and didn't know they struggled with being raped. Didn't know. They didn't wear it on their shoulders. They didn't talk about it, but they struggled with it. So I knew and I felt in my heart some women needed something a little bit different. So I wanted women who I felt that I brought to the table that experienced trauma, and about women, because I wanted to attack it from a spiritual and clinical aspect. Samantha Lee was on the show. She's a licensed clinical social worker. So I wanted to be able to provide everything in that moment for them.
Yeah.
And I had some women that didn't leave there the same. And that was great for me. That was just great for me. So I'm looking forward to doing it again, in a different city, different women, and making it more bigger and more powerful. I'm on assignment. I feel like I'm on assignment. I don't know what it may look like to others. I remember telling them in the event, like I kept saying, I want the event to be great. But I looked around the room and I said, this event was great. And I have to continue with that. I have to do it. Right? Because I still feel like women need it. Yeah. They need to see that, hey, Kosha, you're a counselor. You look like you have it all together. But you're broken too. You struggle too. You've went through life too. And you still smile. I don't have all the answers. I don't. Even being a therapist, I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is what's needed. And I know at the end of the day, if I trust God, I know he's going to lead me where I need to be. It's not my plan. It's I can't do what's not his will any longer. I felt like we want to do what we want to do. And sometimes people say, hey, I want to pray and seek God and ask for answers. And when he gives you the answers, you still don't do what you're supposed to do. And it's like, he's showing you it's going to be uncomfortable. But some things are needed. So I'm just really looking forward to bringing the Her Soul experience back to Atlanta, showing people the way of healing, standing in the gap for them, rooting for them, letting them know that, hey, despite of what you went through and experiences, you are still great, and providing essential tools for them, the journal, the affirmation cards, and looking into other things that I can, bring forward with them to help them on their journey. So that's kind of where I'm going with everything.
Excellent. Tell the folks where they can get tickets.
So you can get tickets on my website, www.koshajoseph.com. The Her Soul Experience is like right there in the front. Tickets are on sale now for our Atlanta event. And yeah, that's it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
My heart is full. Oh, my heart is full. I have to ask our final question, and I am trying not to fall apart, y'all. The final question: as you are praying and seeking the Lord for the journey ahead, would you dare share your hope for yourself, for your business, wherever you want to take it, in 5 years?
In my 5 years that I see myself, um, one of my speakers told me this. She said, "Listen," she said, "you've been in the back for a very long time. God said it's time to move in the front." And I see myself being in the front. I see myself speaking. I see myself being for other women, helping other women on their journeys, um, creating self-care tools for women and showing them, you know, being the person that I am so that they can see through me. I'm no longer in a place to where I feel like I want to fight against what God has for me. I've done it for so long. I've done it for so long. And it's crazy because it's like I've been told this for so long. I had a reading and it was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Didn't think anything of it. People keep telling me and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna fight God no more. So in 5 years, I see myself doing this bigger and better. I see myself speaking in front of thousands of women, you know, making her soul bigger, right? Being the great entrepreneur and great therapist and great friend and great life coach that I can be. And that's what's going to bring me my joy. And so I'm really looking forward to really capitalizing off of that and really doing more in the next 5 years.
Oh, y'all, I will be sure to add her contact information, her website, her Instagram handle, all of that. Please, please, please don't hear this powerful woman and not support the ministry and assignment that she is about God's business to do. I am changed. I am convicted by our conversation.
Yeah.
I thank you for sharing your message, and I stand in agreement as God pulls you to the front that He will continue to use you and do powerful, powerful things.
Yes.
For His glory, but for your good and to help other people.
Absolutely, because I receive it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
That fear will creep in on you so fast, and it'll make you want to not do it.
Yeah.
But it's purpose.
It's purpose. So. It's purpose. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really, 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 I needed this.
No. This is a mutual. This is mutual.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Y'all, please like, share, subscribe, share it. And until we gather again every single Thursday, may God increase your joy, grant you strength for the journey, and give you the courage to tell your story. Bye, friends.